I haven't slept in 3 days. All right,
you got those crazy eyes going, man.
Welcome to New Polity, everyone.
Are we doing a New Polity one?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is where you are.
You're great.
We picked up this guy off the street. I'm really tired because I'm in the middle of doing my dissertation. I'm sick of it. My baby's not sleeping well. Bless her. So I apologize in advance for the sleepy thoughts.
Hey, but you look great, man.
Do I?
Oh, yeah.
I wore this yesterday.
Yeah. It looked familiar.
So when you say great, you mean familiar. You look warm and comforting.
I like things that are familiar, you know?
Something
new. They put me on edge.
We brought James.
It's an honor to be here. It's a privilege. I'm also very tired.
Yeah.
I flew out on the red eye from LA.
Yeah.
It's called LAX. That's weird because it's a very uptight airport. Am I right, everybody? It's a new joke.
James is a comedian, and he's doing a show in New York City, right?
I think so.
And so...
So the man said come out, and he said I could gig with him in New York, and he'd put me up. But he's also very successful, the man who said this, and he's not so I've flown here for that reason. And I've added this on, and this, frankly, I'm very excited about this. But I'm not 100% sure that I have a place to stay in New York, so I'm just sort of going to show up. It's going to be great.
All right.
It's going to be great.
Well, if we release it, yeah, no, I have done that. If you when you're Catholic,
that's how we met, actually.
Yeah, when you're Catholic, you can just show up places and then figure out where the Catholics are.
No, this is not a joke. Right. I met Mark. Somebody put us in touch via email.
Are you both in Oxford at this time?
Well, we weren't yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were actually both stateside at the time. Then I move over to England, and then Mark.
This studio is so freaking warm. I'm gonna fall asleep. I'm sorry. Tell the story of our birth.
Well, I get an email one day that says, "Hey, I just landed in Heathrow, and I don't have a place to stay. Can I come crash with you?"
Yeah.
Except I overlooked it and didn't see it for 5 days. And so all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, is Mark homeless, stranded on the streets of London? And anyways, he wasn't. A nice priest took him in, but then we took him in, and that's how we became friends.
Priests to take you in as well is insane. There's a whole Catholic thing. I was briefly
They've always
homeless.
got spare bedrooms.
There's so many places to stay. Sometimes they don't want to let you stay there. Sometimes you stay there and you go, I think this is a heretical monastery. But mostly you have a really good time with your meals paid for.
When I was growing up, we lived in Europe for a while. My dad was stationed in Germany, and we'd visit European places. One of the places, Paris, Montmartre. And there's a bunch of nuns there that we stayed with who were lovely. And we got to stay there for free if we would wash the dishes. And wash the dishes. It's great. That's the Catholic Church, baby. The Catholic Church is a simple... People ask me, what's the Catholic Church? I say, I know what I tell them. I say, leave me alone. And then if they're persistent, what I say is, the Catholic Church is, it's your family, right? So, but you have this experience of love in your family.
Yes.
It might be brief. It's a week. Hopefully your dad doesn't leave, etc. But you have a brief experience of family, and that is the experience that never suffered the effect of the fall. That's what the marriage blessing in the Roman Rite says, that marriage is the one blessing that was not destroyed by the fall. Mm-hmm. And so that experience was always with humanity. Wait, I'm not done. And then the church is the one who extends the familial relation to all peoples.
You expect, and people should look up the episode on usury where you talk about that at length.
Oh, rats! That was new.
Oh no, it's beautiful.
It sounded completely unfamiliar to me.
I enjoyed
unfamiliar. It was all about familiars.
Every episode is about the familiarity. But I wish that you speak about this on the podcast, and I think this is beautiful. And we want every relationship in the community to be one of family, and to not want to rip people off and destroy them.
That's right.
Which is like, I can see how you've come to that conclusion living in this country, because that is you've turned that up to 11 here. You buy plane tickets. I flew Spirit.
Yeah,
they're auctioning off, like legroom, but they're having an actual auction with sick, tired people, and then they've overbooked the flight on purpose, right? Thinking that people won't make the flight, and then they offer you money to not get on the flight that they've purposefully overbooked. I mean, it's just transparently going, you are cattle. You get in that big metal tube and we take your money. You go to the website. I'm glad I didn't book my tickets when I was as tired as I am now. You have to say no to a credit card on 4 different pages. You have to say, no, and I still don't want your credit card. I don't live here.
Yeah, and then they try to sell you insurance.
I took a screenshot of them trying to sell me the insurance because they take things that either should be included, right? Like here's one of the things they get you to pay for. If the airline declares bankruptcy and doesn't exist anymore, you'll get your money back, right? Someone is paying the $5 bonus, the insolvency insurance. This is, and then they have, right, because they want to keep the price low and they want you to click on that fare because it's, I'm explaining so badly. I apologize.
No, it's true.
But they sell it to you. They've got a quote from the New Yorker, right? Going, everybody should be buying this insurance. So someone, they're buying ads at the New Yorker.
And citing themselves.
Back. Yeah. To get you. And then if you say, no, I don't want the insurance, they go, it's recommend. Are you sure you don't want, what if you get COVID and you can't fly? The hate, you really feel that they actually dislike you as a person. And they do want to make you suffer as much as you can. Yeah, and this is not a uniquely American thing. I think this is true of capitalism everywhere.
But don't you want to fight for the affection of someone that hates you? I think that's what they're doing.
Yes, and you want to get in the lounge. You want to be flying Delta. You want to be on one of the good airplanes where they treat you with respect.
It feels like victory over your enemies in some way.
Yeah.
Well, it would be hard once you'd made it to want to tear up the system, right? When you're in the lounge and you get a little pod and they rub your shoulders and things.
They give you the umbrella and your orange juice.
Oh, come on now. That's what I'm talking about. Get me up in the lounge.
We're speaking about the same thing.
What's the tipping? I wanted to ask you about the...
Sure.
It feels like a gamble when you order a meal here, how much you'll be charged. It's very hard for me to estimate.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm...
Because you don't have tipping in Australia because you hate people.
Well, we pay them a minimum wage.
Right.
I feel this is fundamental. Is you ask the business to be set up in such a way that your value as a person... You don't have to decide not to make someone starve who's working for you. That you just have, like every other business in society... They're taking care of their worker. They're not just... Whereas here, every meal is an audition.
Yeah,
the wait staff is... These people are scared, I think.
Yeah.
This is important. They're asking how I am over and go away.
Yeah.
I don't...
Yeah, well, the theatrics really get you somewhere in America.
I have a podcast. I want to ask you this question. Maybe now would be a good starting point.
Okay, let's do it.
I had a dream, right?
Okay.
Now, where does the Holy Spirit disconnect from a manic episode? I don't know personally. Sometimes you think Kanye West, Mr. Ye, whatever I think Ye is currently the name.
That's his legal entity. Yeah.
I think sometimes he's having an upswing.
Yep.
And sometimes maybe the Holy Spirit is moving through that man. But it's hard to know.
Yeah.
So I decided I should buy a boat. I don't have enough money to feed my family. We rent at exorbitant rates. I don't own a home. I don't earn a lot of money. But I thought I should buy a $500,000 catamaran. That this is maybe the tradition is not absent of examples of people who suddenly feel the need to get a boat.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
One example. But so my podcast is called the James Donald Forbes McCann Catamaran Plan. And it's about trying to use a podcast to get enough money to buy a boat. I started listening to this podcast shortly after I started that podcast, and I immediately had a crisis of confidence as to whether or not in the religion that I've happily opted into, it was permissible for me in my station to try to have a boat. And then,
Could be cool.
I think it would be very cool.
What are you going to do with the boat?
Don't know.
All right.
Don't even really want the boat. But I feel, this is what I mean about the manic episode and the Holy's, like, when are we called to do something? When are we insane? That's discernment and that's personal. I'll get there in the end. So I'm trying to only do projects, though, that I can pray for and work on and that are moral. And I wish to raise some of them with you.
Cool.
Because, so the first thing we did was an art auction. I took...
an ad auction.
Sorry, I apologise for my accent. An art.
Art.
Art. Like paintings, yeah.
No, it was Art Guthrie. And we put him on a block and I charged money for his services.
There's a joke. What does the West Virginian say when you ask him if he wants to see some beautiful paintings?
What does the West Virginian say when you ask him that?
Art.
I don't get it. But
Way over my head.
But
He says art.
Oh,
he's saying all right.
It's all right.
I have only been to West Virginia for about 35 seconds.
Yeah, we drove through there.
Yeah.
Oh, did you pick him up this morning? Oh,
That's
cool.
one of the reasons I'm so tired. Well, that's not the reason I'm so tired.
I can't believe you've... I'll get back to the Catamaran in a moment.
I'm feeling pretty well rested, actually. I think I'm the only one after this
Congratulations
table.
to you. I wish. I can't... You picked me up from the airport. I didn't put this on my own podcast that you were going to do this because I didn't want you suddenly having carte blanche from crazy people going, I hear if you write to this guy, puts you up in his house and picks you up from the airport. I just thought I would be discreet.
People do that anyway. It's fine.
Yeah,
But
I
we
would
can-
have found somebody if I couldn't do it. It's,
But you want a society that is open to vice, right? Like
Correct.
a virtuous society that can be undone by people doing the wrong thing.
what, that's wonderful. Thank you for saying that. It just makes me feel like that's a very
listen
important
to your
idea.
podcast.
I know, but it actually, like, you have it in your head now.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
the
great.
podcast works wonders. It's much better than my podcast. I love your podcast. However, a prudence comes into it as well.
Sure.
You've got a young family. You don't. I look like a crazy person. I'm a wild-eyed people. You don't know what maybe I'm more normal when I've slept in the last 4 days or whatever number that is. How do you? I mean, also the Catholic Church has a long history of being open to people and having the best intentions, and then going, goodness gracious me, that's been terribly undone by predators, right? Like where. So I think about myself and my life and my family and how I can, be a guest to people.
Predators. That's a good example. Especially like with the sexual abuse crisis, because it was actually a
I was talking
response.
about liturgical prey.
Liturgical prey.
Sorry, no. Liturgical abuses. That was my big. But the sex stuff is also bad.
Well, it's because I was thinking in reference to like staying at people's houses and such.
Yes,
But it's always seemed to me that the response of like, well, let's do a centralized like solution that Cardinal McCarrick invented, in which we all essentially sign up to spy on each other as a way of like preventing sexual abuse, is insane.
yes.
It's an insurance.
But you know what? I think this is the thing. We have been told for so long that man is dirty, nasty, vile, and gross.
Yes.
That we just actually started to believe it when it's just not the case.
And I'm not even very hospitable. I mean, Jacob's like, he never has a guest room open because it's already taken. I've just stopped asking. Whereas I it's more of a like, struggle of the will to say,
Yes.
let's invite
And
people.
I
But
appreciate
he's
that.
also like taking care of like not only young kids but also older in-laws.
We have my dad staying with us as
Do you?
well and the young kids.
How
So
is that?
it's,
How you doing?
Yeah.
Tell you, no, it's great. It's so great. We're in a 2-bedroom apartment with,
Oh my
with
gosh.
like a lot of. Well, it's a house. It's a house, but there's a lot of asbestos and
Oh,
whatever. And it's great.
Do you rub it? Pick at
The
it?
asbestos.
Yeah.
Just to help.
Do you
the-
lines?
you can eat it.
Lines of asbestos?
You
I
can
think
eat
that's too close
asbestos.
to a suicide.
You
You've
can
got to
eat
be
asbestos.
slightly more. You've got to smoke and
Yeah.
hasten. But I think it's good. I was saying maybe it came across. I was saying that as a negative thing. There's hospitability.
Yeah.
It's not quite how to conjugate that. And right, but it's like it's beautiful, and I'm grateful, and I'm humble, and I want to be able to do that, and be, like this is how you build community and know people, and people aren't then anonymous to you, and this is how if you're going to have a town, if you're going to have a church,
Yeah.
that I think that is what it is, what it looks like, and I think this is why the liberalism goes together with the illiberalism of going, we should all be allowed to do whatever we want, but also sexual predators are everywhere because we have a culture where people are allowed to do whatever they want. So you've got to be
It's also like
ultra conservative.
everyone can do whatever they want, and if you come on my lawn, I'll shoot you. Sort of a nice combo
So
of
like it's a harmony.
sentiments. Yeah. So
But how do you get to that point? How do you get to that point of this radical being hospitable in a really a very countercultural and strange way that you've allowed me to stay at your house?
I guess I didn't think of it as radical.
Well, it was the Clementis for me.
Oh, right.
So Blake, my oldest son, his godparents, Tim and Karen, they just always had people living in their home.
Yeah.
Since when they got married to like now. Here's a story. So they and it wasn't just like kind of the average Joe. I mean, it was like homeless moms. It
Yeah.
was like some recovering folks. It was, like literally like people that they would pick up in parking lots and be like, hey, you look like you don't have shelter. You want one? And they just did that. And they had people living in the home like just forever.
Yeah.
What happened about 10 years ago, Karen's mom had dementia. We got dementia, and it started to get pretty bad, so they moved her into their home, and it got progressively worse, as dementia does, and it just became so much of a burden for them to take care of her. So they kind of made this prayer saying, God, we just can't receive anybody else who like requires a lot of work.
Yeah.
But we will as soon as mom passes away. Okay. So a lot of people like make promises like that all the time and then like never keep them. Okay. Well, they did. Like I got to live with them for about a year. And that just totally rocked my world. It was the first time that I ever lived with a Catholic family, like actually getting to see the pattern and day to day of a normal Catholic family's life, but like a radical one, like one that's really striving for virtue, that's going to these kind of what a lot of us would call insane lengths to show charity to people, right? And it was just so beautiful, and I got to see the community and love that actually blossomed as a result of not judging people before you got to know them, and taking that first step, because their first step in charity drove other people to be charitable too. Now, it didn't always work out for them, but Jesus got beaten down for being charitable. It didn't always work out for him.
They wanted to throw rocks at him once.
Yeah. That was very cool youth pastor.
Yeah. Let me show you someone you might have heard.
Okay, well, anyways, so they did that. I got to see that. Here's just one last thing about the Clementis. So mom died a year ago, and it was during the terrible snowstorm in Virginia.
Yes.
And they... Yeah,
the one that Ted Cruz tried to avoid?
Probably.
There was one that was all I saw. I'm sorry.
Man, you're really watching our TV.
It's all we get.
Who the hell is Ted Cruz?
We don't get a choice about your media. But please.
Yes, welcome
to... So they walk down to the grocery store because they can't get out of their house. They can't drive, so they like walk over to the grocery store, and they see a mom and their son in their cars just covered by snow, and they can't get out, and they're dressed kind of like in like summer, like kind of how I am, like pants and shirts, but it's it's freezing out, and they said, just come back and stay with us. It's our electricity's gone too, but we got a big fire and you can just stay. That was the day that mom died. They brought random strangers stuck in a car out, and so they meant it, and that was just kind of their MO. That's just how they operated, and we thought that just seems like way more fun.
Yeah.
To live a life like that, and so they kind of through that year they kind of habituated me to that way of thinking, and it's just life is so much more
and
enjoyable.
people say things like, "Aren't you worried you're gonna get murdered in your bed?" And I tell them I'm a very light sleeper.
You got very creaky floorboards.
Oh, yeah. I'm Adam. I have this way of disabling people. I've been taught to punch people in the throat with 2 knuckles.
Okay.
And I train it as like what I do is when I wake up every morning, I do a quick one.
Yeah.
So that's my bodily reflex that whenever I wake up, it just like pops out. So I'm locked and loaded.
His father-in-law once came over and made that mistake.
That was but luckily he also had a reflex of.
Did that?
No, I'm just joking. But what I was gonna say is, hospitality is a liturgy or a ritual whereby Catholics can unbelieve the regime of private property that afflicts Americans especially. So we live under this sort of, you said you didn't like regimes earlier. Somebody used a different word. We live under...
I just think people are saying regime a lot now to refer... It makes it a little more one-party state than it currently is. But I understand what people are saying. But please.
I mean, when I say, I just mean that the idea that property ownership is exhausted by legal ownership. So you have your name on the deed, you paid the money, you paid the bank, you have the thing, and that's all there is to it, which is basically the lie that American Catholics have bought, where they presume that is what's fundamental to ownership. And then they say, okay, well, if I'm going to be hospitable with my gift, if I'm going to do things with my gift, it's always a work of charity in the sense of something extra. So I'm going to, in my abundance in my blessing. I'm going to give out of what I've been given. And this is
Yeah.
good. But what hospitality as an obligation teaches you is that it's not in fact true that it belongs to you outside of your use of it for the common good. What I mean is your ownership, the reason that you can say in confidence before God, I own this house, I own this land,
Yes.
is precisely to the degree to which you can say, I use it for your church, I use it for the good. And when you can't say that, you lose ownership. Now, people struggle with this, but I find that having a just reflex of hospitality or working towards that, which I like people a little bit, but not that much.
Yeah.
You know,
I have to work in my friendship with Mark. Yeah.
but having that reflex helps you to just constantly remind yourself, like, it's not just that you're using what you own, it's that you don't own it unless you use it for the good. And so it's actually,
But then the good that you have to give may be extremely large.
Yeah.
Right. And this is then, I think, so you have to give everything that is not to your station, right? Like
Correct.
but your station is actually bigger than just saying,
Yes.
I have my nuclear family.
Yeah.
It's like I have a whole community and world that I have to give to.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, I mean, in the Catholic art, this is obvious, right? Where it's like, blessed be the meek, covered in gold. This is the central, unusual thing. Where it's like, oh, it's a church of poverty. The Pope is wearing an extravagant crown with 3 things in it. But this is...
But it's our crown.
In a sense, this is a gift, right? This is not going and having, everyone in the congregation, they come and there's some like drab carpet and there's a cross on the wall that Christ is not on. And then we have, cheap coffee and the heat is not on. Then we go home to our opulent mansions. It's like, no, come for the poor. This is the house for everybody to go to. And so, but that's a radical rethinking of then what is your station and what are you meant to do? Because it's maybe not great. It's not having enough money to go to Macaresh and play a sitar and have all the... We went to Matt Frad's shop today. I think he's got opium pipes in there.
They're expensive opium pipes.
He's laughing in the next room. He didn't mind that. But I just mean...
I know, and Matt Frad's...
You can have wealth, but you got to use it for the good. And that's what's happened.
And to his credit, like he keeps a separation where the opium den is under the cigar shop.
Thoughtful.
And that's
No, he's a considerate guy. One thing, just to kind of, I think, a helpful transition for some people from that theoretical thing is like, think about when you give to your church. Like a lot of people do think about that as like, I got to give to this like entity or whatever.
The basket comes around and you feel guilty.
Yeah, and you do it, and it's like, you actually aren't separating with that money when you give that.
Yeah.
Because that church is yours.
Well, sometimes the bishop is spending it on things that have a big question mark.
But that's why is that so wicked? Is because he's stealing your money.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not like he's misusing your money. He's stealing your money.
Yeah, it's an exception to the rule.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So when you give, like, especially it's like, we're starting this renovation at our church. We're really excited. It's going to be beautiful. We got to get Alien Jesus off the wall.
You have an alien Jesus at the moment?
Oh my gosh.
You'll see.
All right.
But at least he's stepping on tofu. He's being buoyed up in the world.
I've seen. I can't believe it's the... What's the worst crucifix in a church? What's the worst rood screen you ever saw? Was rood screen, not rood screen, rood? The big crucifix at the back? Yeah. There is... there are a couple...
I'll tell you the one.
What's your least favorite?
My least favorite... Now, you cross your fingers, Jacob, so you remember the point.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize. I didn't say... I'm usually such a good podcast.
It's all right.
He's got his
Mark's been
fingers
doing
crossed.
this. Yeah.
So, and he's gonna implant his what he needs to remember into those fingers, and when he releases them, the
memory will come out.
Yeah, it's sort of a Gnostic
Does
thing.
this work?
Yeah. Mark does it at meetings.
You said a thing about Gnosticism and trans people before that I think was
let's
backwards.
move on.
All right.
The end of this point was
mine
that
in here.
we are actually going to get to see the results of what we give to, because that's always going to be ours. Yes. That new apps is our apps. And it's something that we can always, it's like walking into your family room. Do you want nice art on the wall in your family room? Of course you do.
Okay.
Same thing with your church.
You want a nice apps?
Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
All right, what are you
okay, all right, so I've got a few. Worst crucifix that I've ever seen is, God bless them, in Duquesne University's main chapel. I think it's called Holy Spirit something. It is unrecognizable. I don't know what it is. It's cool that it's floating. I like that.
But it doesn't look like it.
If it was like an apparition that on a moonlit night in a cornfield was just hovering above me with a low sound, I would love it.
Okay.
As it stands, I don't like it. What are all these? Sorry, I have a lot of fingers crossed. No, that's all I remember. Sorry.
It's just a gang sign.
I'm going to jump in while you do that, and I'm going to tell you my least favourite one, which is in the Gold Coast in Australia. And so it's one of the, the altar's not at the back of the church, it's in the middle, and the priest is sitting back behind the cross. But Christ is hanging on a 45. Have you seen these where he's on a 45-degree angle? Yeah. And but the gravity is still affecting him. So he's hanging. He's not straight on the 45. He's hanging off the cross, and then the priest is behind, looking up into the unmentionable. It's a very strange.
Yeah.
You got this Gold Coast church. Tell me I'm wrong. It's bizarre. I was angry.
Yeah.
There are a couple others where you go, this is, I'm just smash the icons,
Well, okay.
Not all of them, some of it.
Yeah. No. There's some debate on that point.
I
think it's burying and burning is what the church is okay with.
Really?
Yeah. Something's blessed. Yeah.
You don't want to scandalize the prots because sometimes they like to smash our statues.
Well, no, you must smash with taste.
Them.
Smash them with taste. You have to be really clear to the prots why you're smashing it.
This is my
it's
theory
for
as to
a
why
bigger,
they
better
take him
one.
off, by the way. I don't know if people know
what are you talking
about? Where they'll have the cross, but they won't have a crucifix.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think the reason, I don't know if people talk about this. I think it's because you can't, having the crucifix destroys the whole premise of if you're going to be fine, you're going to make money, there's the example, right? If you do everything you're meant to do, the state will kill you in a very painful way. Yeah. And that you can't have someone standing in front of that going, do the right thing, we'll get you a boat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's true. And not enough people just stare at a crucifix.
It's what it's there for, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't follow everything that's going on. That's why the candles are there, I think. There's probably good reasons for these things to be there as well. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. We have this argument a lot because sometimes people will hear what political philosophy we manage to scrape up and say, well, if you do these things, you'll be killed, right? So if you don't put your weight and your power into things like armies and police forces and nation states, then you're going to exist as a basically weak entity within a world that wants to destroy you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that you should want that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
you can't seek martyrdom, but you have to accept it if it comes at you, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if desiring it is the thing.
It's not so much that you desire martyrdom, right? But what you want to do is enact the
You're right.
Enact the good.
Right. Yes.
I mean, you can want to you can want to be martyred, but you just have to understand that martyrdom is the seed of the church. So, and not just the church as like a institution, but the church as the people of God. That what you do when you live a life worthy of martyrdom is make it possible for a Christian community that can exist at an empire scale.
Yes.
And that's literally what happened. I'm just repeating the church history.
Yeah.
So it's like this, to look at the cross, to see the crucifixion, is to know that for us within evil regimes, efficacy...
I apologize for complaining about the word regime earlier.
Efficacy and martyrdom actually go together. How to be efficacious is through martyrdom.
Yes.
It's not to avoid the cross. But it does mean that you take on an unfortunately a longer term. As Wendell Berry once said, plant sequoias, I
don't know what that tree is or who Wendell Berry is.
It's a really big one. He has a couple lines down. He says, say that your main crop is a tree that you did not plant and that you will not live the harvest.
I've heard that quote hijacked by feminists.
Oh, really?
It is a great quote to use when you're losing as well.
Yeah. That's why we like it.
We're planting the seeds for a garden that we will never see.
Yeah.
But the way I've heard that misused from the sound of it, which I thought was dastardly, was yes, we're causing a lot of destruction now.
Oh, sure.
Yes, doesn't look like women are thriving at STEM the way we want them to, no matter how much money we put into it. But the forest will maybe 10 generations of re-educated people. But one day there will be. But I think we shouldn't hunger after martyrdom, right? Like Christ doesn't want the cup. It's not for he doesn't want to die. We don't want to die. It's very nice to be alive. I love my family.
Yeah.
But that the example we have is if you do the right thing, death may be coming at you.
Correct.
And people will want to kill you.
And there's definitely the
outside of the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
Yes.
And martyrdom, just in the sense of like every day denying yourself, pouring yourself out as a sacrifice.
Having me to stay. This is a form of martyrdom, potentially.
What did I do?
I'm killing you later on tonight.
Oh, that's right.
Watch out.
Yeah, watch out.
Fingers, man.
It's usually the right
Ask the father-in-law. Ask the father-in-law. Yeah,
We had a good chat this morning as well when you went off.
About Vietnam.
Yeah, the Tet Offensive and drugs. And he told me that the Australians that he met in Vietnam, he used very tasteful language, but I think was implying that they did terrible things. Yeah.
I mean,
he's very respectful.
Who among us can cast the first stone, as Pope Francis plus Jesus said?
You make that sound like an opportunity. Who among us can we find someone here to throw this stone?
Hey, I got a joke.
On?
Yeah, it's a bad joke. It's a dumb joke.
Which one?
All right, I'll tell it.
All right.
So, once upon a time, there was a adulterer caught in the act, and the Jewish people were going to stone her to death according to their law. And Jesus came and wrote on the sand for a while, and then said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." And a rock comes beaming out, nails the poor adulteress in the head, and Jesus turns around and says, "Mom, I didn't know you were here." That's like Sunday school stuff.
Yeah, I thought for sure that was going to be about the writing in the sand, because that always jumps out to me as the details where you go, because we don't know what that is. Right?
I want to know.
I think
what
church
that is
tradition
so bad.
might point towards a couple possibilities, but you go, that's a weird. In the Roman histories of like how good Romulus was, and in the myths that you have, you don't tend to have weird dead ends that go, we don't have
that's a good point.
That did happen. Someone will figure that later on. We're right. It seemed significant at the time.
Yes.
Put it down.
No, it is very obviously a history, in the sense of like this happened.
Yeah,
it was there.
He wrote something down in that sand.
Don't know what it was.
It's important, I guess. Otherwise, they wouldn't have included it. But all we really know for sure is that it happened. Yeah.
All right, I got to write this dissertation. So you got to ask me some questions. What do you want? What do you want from me?
This pot roast is awesome.
I'm told the pot roast is very good. Number one is my business ideas, and I'd like to quickly run past if they're ethical, if I may.
Let's go.
So I thought an art auction would be fine.
Okay,
I've done that. You're an intermediary.
Yeah.
It sort of feels parasitic. But you're getting the artists to have work and rich people who want to buy it, and you're facilitating that exchange.
Okay.
So I don't have too many problems with that one. I think that might be okay. Can you think of any reason that would be wrong? If the art's bad.
To be clear, some people think we're kind of moralists on this. Like we like casuistry. Like, in fact, we generally just think things are fine.
Yeah,
but I tell you what I did that made me feel.
We actually just don't really like think about these things all that much. Just
I asked that you think about this one because I believe I
think the art auction is fine.
Great.
Yeah. It seems like an opportunity. It seems sad structurally that people won't just give you your money for your boat,
doesn't it?
But if you got to hustle, I get it.
Now, do you have op shops here?
No, what's that?
Like a thrift.
Yeah,
people still donate to charities.
Why do you call it op shop?
Opportunity shop.
Oh, nice.
Op shop. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that being weird?
It being an op shop.
An opportunity? Like, whose opportunity?
I think they should have, instead of shortening it, they should have lengthened it and called them opportunity shop-opportunities. That's my personal feelings about it. But I believe I have a beautiful taste, that I have a vision, and I can see, and I go, that's great, people will want that.
Yeah.
But then, so I did this, I went, all right, I said to my cameraman, you come with me, I'm going to the op shop, I'm going to spend $100 on stuff, I'll slap that on eBay.
And upsell it.
Yes.
Upcycle.
But I took it off after I put it up because I thought, am I speculating here? Or is there some way that I'm giving the gift of, me? And that's an item.
Yeah.
But that also feels like you're buying low deliberately to sell high.
Yeah.
So you think I was right to discontinue that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. Because your value add is very slight. And especially if you're posting it in such a way as to lie about the value.
How dare you? How very deep.
That's what people do, though. I mean, like
They do.
these women, they buy stuff at Goodwill, and then they go and they say it's like vintage chic, which is a lie, and then they make more money on it.
Yes.
So it's like they added value, but the value was being a liar.
Which some would say is not a value.
I say it's a disvalue.
It's extreme.
Most
moral
advertising
reservation.
is evil.
All right, now I'm interested by that. You have a marketer, though.
Yeah.
You have someone who's marketing and
Argue
who's
it-
working, because I
argue
found
it.
out that this existed, and I've traveled across the world.
We're here.
I've literally traveled across the world to be
He
here.
would make a distinction
Okay.
between advertising and marketing in this sense.
Yes.
If you got peanuts, you want to sell the peanuts.
Yeah.
You tell people
People need to know that there are peanuts.
they're here and here's what they cost. That's sufficient. And if that's what advertising was, that'd be great. You might even say these are good peanuts.
If they are.
If they are.
If they are, that's right.
But the construction of desires through ads.
This is a big thing for you, isn't it? The
Well, I
perpetual,
hate it.
but the
I'm susceptible to it.
immanentization of the desire. I was trying to think of a word that
Eschaton.
means desire, but
Sorry.
rhymes with eschaton, but it didn't come to me in time.
Descaton.
Wantaton, reggaeton, but this thing of like
Reggaeton.
people telling you to want something.
Yeah.
This irks you in a big way.
Yeah.
This is the biggest pet peeve I hear. You, I don't hear as much about this on you.
Well, I just don't really listen as
No.
much, I think.
But is this because you're susceptible to it? That
think
you're hateful of it?
I think my susceptibility to it gives me an insight into the kind of anger everyone should feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Jacob.
Like billboards, for instance, fill me with an unquenchable and earth-shattering kind of rage. And I talk about billboards a lot as I'm driving, and my wife doesn't see them.
Yes.
They're just not there for her.
Yeah.
And so I don't...
I'm more like his
I know,
wife.
I've had this experience.
This is a gift from God, though, to let me see, you know? I'm like, I got the Matrix glasses, or that
Rowdy Roddy Piper glasses.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
only I just see the billboard.
I need to bring in this book one day so I can actually read this quote. But there was this book that I read that had the first advertisement for telephones, and it was beautiful. It said things like its phrasing was, "It only works up to 25 miles away, and no more. If you speak very loudly, you can discern the other person can discern what you're saying." I mean, just like it's totally like telling you this.
Yeah, this is all the bad things.
Yeah. It was pretty much delivering
I
that.
think until the 50s, this was an advertisement in a magazine, advertisement.
Yeah.
It would just be a page with a picture of the thing and them going, here are the 12 things it does.
Yeah.
And then Ogilvy changes it all.
Yeah, and I really don't. I need to sit down and think about this a little bit more.
I don't. I can start ranting.
Okay, well,
No, you go ahead.
this is because I'll toss in 2 cents and then he'll toss in $100. You know what? In the Middle Ages, people were making a lot of cool stuff. Often,
Okay.
you know, we liked around the office to talk about the automaton duck that gets mentioned.
Every
you know?
automaton I've seen, I enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just very fascinating. But you know, and they had like the beginnings of mills and kilns and stuff, and yet they didn't put it on a mass scale. There was no felt desire to get rich off of inventions that they were, but it wasn't also that they were just not trying to share it either. Someone might say, well, there's a good side to the marketing where it's like there, you know, more people can enjoy it. And it's like, yeah, but it's not a real need, you know, and I'm not going to try and create a false need for other people. And that's the thing about like inventions are awesome. They're cool. If they take on organically, that's great. But if somebody doesn't need the thing, then why are you in a sense laying the ground of temptation for them? Okay, now that we're in a world where everybody is marketing and such, there is some place maybe I'd say to like put your foot in to you know, and trip somebody up in the marketing, you know, floor, you know.
I've actually now
in
completely
Vanity
lost.
Fair. Okay, no, I do.
Wait,
I
in
got
Vanity
it,
Fair? Yeah. The marketing floor in what, Thackeray or the poem or the magazine?
I was going for the book.
Yeah. What happens in Vanity Fair?
Well, just everybody's trying to get your attention everywhere, right? You know, and so if you can put your foot out in Vanity Fair and trip somebody up, you know, and through your marketing to get them off of everything else, it's a good thing.
Well, we prioritize that. That's what the fact that it hasn't stopped on. You're ready to go. You're itching to go.
Just do it.
All right, come on.
We're ready to go.
No one manufactures scarcity in my town. That's not true. They do all the time, but they ought not, because it's rude.
Yes.
It's rude to tell children that they need things. All marketing, all advertising is really for children. Now, it might be an adult child, but insofar as it's an advertisement,
yes,
it's for the part of you that doesn't know what to want.
That's
that is
lovely.
The definition of a child is they look to you.
I don't know that's the definition
all
of
right.
a child.
Some children at certain ages look to you to tell them through your words, through your actions, through your life, what to want.
Yes.
Okay? And the wickedness of advertising can be seen obviously in Hot Wheels. Now, have you ever seen a Hot Wheels advertisement? Okay, so it's like little cars.
They're zipping.
Okay, yeah. So they become parents to the child and tell them what to want, and they lie about it because they show children having insane amounts of fun.
Yes,
it's not that fun.
I've done it.
It just sounds like you've had a bitter time with Hot Wheels. Yeah,
this is all about Hot Wheels. But my point is just that within Christianity, whenever you have power over someone, which includes the ability to tell them what it is good to want.
Yes.
Then you use that for their flourishing. You use that for their good.
Yes.
You become obligated as a father is obligated to his child. And what we have in our society is that very power, that paternal power, is being used to enslave and addict children.
Yeah.
Adult children and children, into endless systems of rent where their money and their power and their time just constantly floods out of them into useless occupations.
It's just abusive parenting, and which makes Google really the parenting book that everybody reads and learns how to be an abusive parent.
Which imitate Google.
Yeah. No, because Google like sets up. I mean, they are the platform
like they're
for all the
stacking,
marketing.
they're going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that Tim Cook's old line about like if you don't know what the product is, you are it. That sort of thing. So, because you are the child that they want to raise in a particular way to be a perfect consumer.
But you can't. Human nature is sufficiently fixed that you can't actually turn someone into a perfect consumer. You do need to have some sort of product at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
Or your business. So, like the iPhone,
Yeah.
post Steve Jobs, hasn't, as far as I can tell, done anything new or interesting. It's larger than it used to be. But with like the last two iPhones, this was like a big thing where people go, but it's the same. It is the same iPhone. You're doing it again. You've added Malibu Stacy, but she's got a new hat. Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Oh, the Simpsons line.
Oh, okay.
Malibu Stacy has a new hat. But like, I think about this software, for example, right? Like we have all the movie editing, video. Maybe you'll disagree over there, editing this up. Are you still listening? Great, good to hear. All the editing software that you needed has been built. We have that code that's been written to make it work, and yet still Adobe will charge you $100 a year to get their latest one. Everything that we need to make the things that we're currently doing online. Microsoft Word has not changed since I was a little boy, but they're still finding a way. Like no one seemingly has managed to do it in such a way that it is free and readily available, because you would think that something that was able to do what Microsoft Word did and was free, we'd just take that, right? Well, but we don't.
Well, we don't create technology to meet needs. We create technology to make money, and that's the crucial difference. I mean, people ask, it's not like Jacob was mentioning the Middle Ages. It's not like there wasn't technology in some way. It's that the technology wasn't for the sake of money, for the sake of meeting the need, and so it's spread on the basis of its meeting the need. Whereas we need to actually take successful technologies and not make them so successful that they actually become need-meeting technologies. They need to be need-meeting at a price technologies, and that's what we do.
But then the need that's being met is not just it doing the thing that it's meant to do. It's the novelty of it, right? It's the feeling of I'm doing the new thing, I've got the new.
In a technological history, and what I mean by that is that the human person is not the subject of our history. How do we know that we're not the generation before us? Well, we look to what gear we used.
They say culture is downstream of technology.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
Well, what I mean this quite literally. Like we look at what does it mean to go through history, and we think things like, well, first we had smoke signals, and then we had carrier pigeons, and then after carrier pigeons we had letters, and then after letters we had email, and then we had the phone, and then you imagine what it means to move through time as a progression of devices to a sort of interminable end state. Whereas the human person becomes, in this mindset, a observer of a technological history that kind of goes on without him, even though obviously we're the ones inventing the things.
And
so one of the reasons
I want to challenge this.
Well, one of the reasons I think that we need new generations of iPhones is that it's fulfilling a very spiritual need in us to know that history is still moving. Because when we've abdicated our place in history that salvation history is about man, the history is about man, that the world is for man, and that what we do matters. When we abdicate that place just to watch a progression of machines saying, this is progress. Isn't this amazing? We're living at the most progressive time of history because all of our machines are better than they were before, which are better than they were before. When we do that, then stasis freaks us out. Like the idea of just arriving somewhere technologically is failure.
But we have, for 10 years, I would say, we have been there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, of course.
And so
And
what
I
we
think
do is
Steve Jobs dies,
Yeah.
and the political woke thing starts. I think it's because no cool new thing is coming along. And so you go, why? I'm now discontent with capitalism. Like the thing, we can have capitalism because it allows for growth. We have a phone now. We have. I don't think there's been a new thing. I don't know what the new thing, other than the Tesla, which is just a car with a. It can't drive itself properly yet. It's not a new thing.
Well, it's structural financially, right? So we've talked about this before, Jacob, that the need for a company to grow is on the basis of companies going public. So,
which is actually something legal here.
Yes.
Like you are like what part of the mission of every public company is, legally speaking, is that it continually grow.
Like
that it grow.
I'll sue you.
Yeah.
So there it structures it so that to not grow and therefore to not change and to not produce new products is to fail, as opposed to meet a stasis point, which you're meeting a need, which normal human beings for all of human history would say is success. Success is now failure within modernity, because to meet a need and to continuously meet it at the same rate is to fail in terms of your market
So you don't
value.
want a cure then. If you're a big pharma company, you want a treatment.
Yes,
you want something you can
exactly.
give people every 6 months to make
gotta-
sure they
yeah, you
stay.
gotta
I'm not
keep-
saying anything in particular about why that's maybe. how
Oh,
we've
buddy,
addressed
you can do
certain
it on this
problems.
pod.
But there are, there are goods as well that have come of that. I mean, I'm happy that cancer drugs exist to the level that they do, even if that was driven by someone going out and going, I actually just want to get as rich as I can.
It goes back to your point, right? That you actually, at the end of the day, have to have a product.
Yes.
So to say, oh, but look, that we've got these goods out of this wicked and idolatrous and greedy system does not justify the system, obviously, because the whole point of the system is to give people goods in a way that accrues to their greed and their idolatry. Like, what are they going to do? Sell us?
That's a slight simplification.
Okay, go ahead.
It's happy to do it with their greed, but it's also happy to do that for genuine needs.
Sure.
Like if it's a cheaper, more effective way to get you a roof over your head, it'll do that too.
Yeah.
But it will, when it doesn't have ready access to real things, will fabricate them.
Yes.
But that is, I think, that's why.
But
it's
I think that's also
pernicious.
part of the conflation of we're just so confused about what's needed and what makes for a happy life.
Yeah.
Like there's no clarity on that whatsoever. And so we pretend that we really need to develop this next thing in a genuine way because we're legitimately confused.
We're going to find it.
No, because we're legitimately confused. Yeah.
But it's going at some point. We'll get to that. That's what we'll upload the brain, and then we'll just have the cyber dopamine.
Well, this is why, I've always thought of atheism as just sort of an ad campaign for iPads. Like, as far as I can tell, that's all it is, because it's not serious as a philosophy. Atheism isn't serious as a philosophy. I mean, it's a joke.
It's the absence of it.
Yeah, it's just a negation and then a bunch of hand waving. Now, why have atheists? Because that seems silly. And I thought, oh, I get it. You have atheists to sell iPads, because if you can get enough atheism within a culture that you don't know, then you no longer have access to your end, which is God. So now you're no longer happy. So now you need things to fill the void.
But the iPad is it's one of the better stand-ins for the sublime that we have cracked as a people.
But don't you think that like the generations, isn't it? I think
I
it's
mean,
fascinating.
I think the iPad's cool. No.
I think it's fascinating that we speak of it coming in generations, right?
Yes.
Because it doesn't, right? Generations, as to say, that's what comes from genitals, right? So that's not what iPhones are doing, but we literally give technological production the language of generation. That is to say, what we should be doing in terms of having kids, we do with iPhones. And I don't think this is an accident. I think, again, it goes back to this sort of historical need to replace that idea of man moving through history towards an endpoint, to say the machines are moving for us. It's like, what I like to say is...
But that's their fantasy as well, right? That they'll hit the machines will start doing it at a certain point, and then we're hands off and there's a singularity. That is the fantasy.
Yeah.
Right? That literally is what they want, is for the machines to
So
self-propagate.
far, yeah, maybe. So far, that's just been a way of hiding slaves in other countries.
Is it? What?
Totally.
What?
Oh,
automation? Yeah.
Automation?
Yeah, just generally speaking, the history of automation has been one of...
Obfuscating slaves in other countries.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
So they'll, you read like the British sort of early capitalist
I do agree with
industrialists.
You do agree with it?
I'm thinking about it now. And
Well, it's a simple... I'm not trying
No,
to...
it just sounds like an outlandish thing to say, but I think it is.
It's
But
very...
it was pretty explicit at the beginning of capitalism.
Yeah,
So-
I'm not being edgy. I just mean, like, when you have an automated system, you get to say things about the automated system that's like, look, it's freeing us from labor. Look, we
Yeah.
have all this time.
Yeah.
But it's fueled by coal. So you don't see the mining.
Yes.
But you're relying on now the mining. And this has never changed. Like, we have all sorts of automation that relies on lithium
Yes.
mining, or cobalt.
Cobalt, yeah.
Which relies on slavery. We have the story of American manufacturing is just a story of moving our slaves, or getting slaves instead of workers, which is, we're going to do this for cheap overseas. Mm-hmm. And look, you're getting all these goods. It's like they just come out of nowhere. Yeah, it all says made in China, but it's just like this automatic process now. You can buy whatever you want for cheap. It's like, yeah, well, we hid the slaves from us.
Yes. Look, I'm trying to see if there's a hole in that. Again, I didn't sleep. I feel like I'm not giving a good representation of myself.
No, I mean,
think
it depends
the counter argument would be that you have slaves. You've always had slaves, right? But that industrialization allows you maybe to do that on a bigger. But the industrialization comes first,
No, actually,
rather than the slavery. These are the two competing theories. But you're saying the slavery comes first.
Yeah. So historically speaking, wherever there's been slavery, it's slowed down what you might expect would be technological production, which is obvious, right?
Yes.
If you can get
The
slaves
South
to
is
do
not,
it,
yeah.
If you can get slaves to do it, why invest
do
so
it?
much money in machines? So what Ivan Illich says, for what it's worth, is that what makes a technological society proper is its inability to do without slaves. So it's just saying that your relation to the machine is the relation that slave owners have to slaves. And all of your frustrations with machines and all of your desires with machines is the desire that slave owners have to slaves.
Yes.
It's just that you don't see the people who are enslaved in order to produce the machine,
Yes.
which you then have the relation of
But
slave
then how
owner.
you treat the thing. I think this is more. When you're talking to your phone, you're talking to Siri.
Yes, you become very abusive.
I sometimes hear how I'm speaking to the phone, and I think I sound like an Imperial Raj. Siri, get that thing over there. Show me where to go. No. And I get a little taste of what I would be like, and I don't like what I see.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's right. And I think the internet generally gives us the sense of like everything being at our disposal at the same time as it annoys us at every point that it doesn't quite deliver the way it should, and we become a sort of...
It's extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
How long have we been here for?
It's sleepy time.
This is like, I'm so sorry to have performed so badly on a podcast with you, because I'm not well, and it's been a heck of a couple of 3 days. But this is really, I'm very grateful that you've allowed me to come here and speak to you and get in the way of your day and see what you're doing. This wonderful, flashy office block that definitely looks great outside of just this bookcase. And I think what you're doing is important. I don't know anyone else who's doing what you're doing in the way that you're doing it.
Thanks, man.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a real... I don't like podcasts. I don't care for them. I don't like hearing people shoot the shit. It's very boring to me. But your podcast is... I feel like I learn. I just much respect. I really enjoy it.
Well, we don't really listen to podcasts, which is probably why it's...
Man, there's just no good ones out there. Do you know what I mean?
Somebody got really mad at me when I told him that I didn't listen to podcasts. He's like, "You hypocrite." I said, "I never told somebody to listen to them. Come on."
If people want to enjoy them, that's great. But I do. Then I don't know if you're putting this one out or I'm putting this one out. But hey, enjoy it. Now, but the important thing, I don't know. I'm doing it. I'm doing a comedy show tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rest. Is there a bed I can sleep on?
Yes.
I was enjoying seeing how far I could push it. Because usually I get very sleepy if I don't get my... I also have the children who have the complaints. But then when I got through to like the 35 hours awake in a row, whatever it was,
God.
I was like, no, I'm like Margaret Thatcher. I don't need the sleep. I just do what I want. But I felt over the course of this, I'll be making some very strange faces while you're both speaking. I'm usually so... But let me tell you, it's been an honour. It's been a privilege. Can't wait to see this alien Jesus at the church. Yeah. Steubenville's a lovely place. I was heartbroken this morning.
Why is that?
Because I thought I might have to move here. Because my wife sent me here as well. She said, go and look at it. Because she loves Matt Fred's wife's podcast.
Cam, yeah.
Loves it. And I've listened to some of it. She's incredible. And then, people in Adelaide talk about, and Wagga, as far afield as Wagga Wagga, which you won't know where that is.
That's probably South Middle.
It's all South Middle. It's all South Middle. But they go, Steubenville, like, can we make that happen here? Can we make a Southern Hemisphere version of it? But none of them have seen it. So I'm here to see it as well.
Cool.
Like a
it's like a spy.
Well, if Wagga Wagga does get to be a Steubenville, I think I got to move because that just sounds better.
Wagga Wagga?
Yeah.
It's actually lovely.
The Catholic cult of Wagga Wagga?
I think it would be easier to do your own thing here.
It is. And it's funny because we get a lot of notes from people hit the bingo card and cash out their 401ks.
Yes.
And I get a number of emails from people in Australia where like, you guys have supers or something like that?
Right. And if you can put it in a self-managed super fund, but not unless you have...
But you can't cash that out
heaps
ever.
And heaps of money. Oh, you can't cash it out.
Yeah, like there's no option. So it's like they take your power. So even if you wanted to do something awesome, you can't.
They're also run by unions.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very clever that they did it. But they let you take some of that money out during COVID.
Oh, did they?
A very small amount. Okay. But also, like, I'm never going to have money to retire on. You know, like at this rate. Stand-up comedian, either I make it big or I don't make it at all, and we all have a lot of trouble. That's the trajectory. But it's like there's $30,000 sitting in a bank account right now that could really, would have made this trip a lot easier.
Yeah.
I would have stayed in a hotel during the day yesterday and not wandered around. What's the place I wandered around?
LA? And with a big suitcase?
Yeah, I went to Venice Beach. Those people are insane. They're not well. And then I went to, I want to say Inglewood, but I'm getting that wrong. What did I call it?
I think you said Inglewood.
It was like the most black place I've ever been. And it was so much better than Venice Beach, which I think is like the glitzy one, but it's like that was actually a community of people who care about it. And the Rams. They love the Rams there. They love their Rams. I just had negative, weird vibes all day. And then I went into a hotel to try and stay there, and that was on Venice Beach, and there were like people shouting, calling me a and then I went inside, and then they're like, this is $700 to stay here. And I'm like, but they're just ignoring the schizophrenic man out on the street, shouting at people while they have pina coladas. It's like a thing projected onto it. There's people who need help, who are living on the beach, and there's people who are spending $800 a night to live in a hotel, and they're just parallel, living together, but not with each other at all. It is very sad. Do you know what I mean?
That's insane. I mean, I will never go.
I'm just walking around with a big dumb suitcase the whole time. And I look like one of the crazy people. There's the other thing. Yeah, like, people are treating me like the security's looking at me in a funny way, and so they should. I can't believe you've let me here. I can't believe I've been allowed to come to Steubenville. I can't believe I've been allowed to come.
I like to hear negative impressions of the West Coast.
So far, nothing to recommend.
He's the only non-West Coaster that works here. Oh, I guess Josiah now. But originally, the core original group, he was the outsider.
You a West Coast person?
Oh, yeah, Seattle, baby.
Frasier's a great show.
Oh yeah, he was my neighbor.
I hear that he was a lot of people's neighbor.
A lot of people come into our podcast and try to make pop culture references. It just never goes well.
You didn't watch Frasier? Are you familiar with the band called Nirvana?
Yeah.
Do you know Bill Gates?
So actually, it's funny. I did meet Bill Gates once. Yeah.
You have how far along your journey was this? Do you have a firm word with
I
him
was,
about
his
I was very
immanentizing
of desire?
I was 5 years old at a Halloween party.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad worked at Microsoft, and his office was on Bill Gates had a ton of offices, but one of his offices
He's got more now that he's buying all the farmland.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But one of his offices was on the same hall that my dad's office was on at one point. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
To what extent do your families not understand what's going on here?
My family?
Well, like you're
My mom wants to move here.
okay.
And she
His
will.
mom's awesome.
Yeah.
His mom
Right.
helped us out with a donation right at the beginning.
Oh,
of
yeah.
holiday.
So this is beautiful.
We are on people deny this.
Your story about your father on that podcast when he was dying is very beautiful.
It is.
I just came to me. I just remembered that you told that story. I mean, haunting, beautiful. I just wanted to say I appreciated that. This is not the way I'd like to convey what I'm saying right now. This is some
appreciate
heavy
that.
stuff,
No,
but I
thanks,
want you to
dude.
know that
Yeah.
that moved me.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just presume I talk enough, and that if my family wants to know, they'll listen. But I doubt they. I wouldn't ask them to listen to podcasts by me. That would be
No, but I meant the whole the project of being here.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I said like making your home in a place. This is why I was heartbroken, because I thought, it is possible. There's something happening here. You can have, you don't have to live as a wage slave. There is actually, if you're going to go right, I'm going to make big sacrifices and do something hard, even if that sacrifice is just there's not a symphony orchestra that I can go and see 10 minutes down the road, or whatever. It's not a
About
sports team.
45. But...
It's too far. It should be shorter than the symphony. But that there's a frontier thing happening here. It's like the optimism of that main street and these happy people with their, that doesn't look like a normal main street that I've usually been to. People knowing each other, saying hello. How many people? And to some extent that happens in a small town, but actually everyone seemed quite happy to say hello and not like it was a sad burden that they had to deal with.
Yeah, no, I mean, people actually like each other because people are good.
Well, oriented towards good.
Yeah. All right, well, here we are. Another day, another podcast.
If this doesn't go live on the internet, I'm fine with that. It's just been cool to hang out. It's been real.
Yeah, sometimes when we want to hang out with people, we just do a podcast because we no longer know how to function as human beings. You do enough podcasts, you're just like, wait, is this conversation still going? Mic it up.
Yeah,
I've got a microphone in that bag.
Oh, nice.
That's what I've started doing.
life is performative. If you just habituate towards the theatrics, then it's just like
It does
takes
seem
over.
But we sort of do believe that, right?
Absolutely.
Like you should, if you don't believe it, you should go to mass, and the blessing is real. And just like this was at the dime store. What are they called? Dime store.
Thrift store?
No, the New York sexy Catholics.
Oh yeah.
Who look like they're making fun of it, but it's like,
this,
show up. Okay, you want to wear a low cut top and go to mass? Thank you for going to mass. Do the performative thing.
Dime Square.
Not that people who are already going to mass should suddenly get their, make it sexy. But I'm saying if you're better to be moving in that
Reach
direction.
the people, Father.
Get the guitar out. Let me go to bed. I'm so sorry I've kept you both here. This has been a real joy. All right, I'm so sorry. This is the first impression that I'm making.
Oh, this is great. We're glad to have you.
Please edit very heavily. Are you in there?